It's showtime. Here we are in state-controlled Britain. It's 7 p.m. here in the UK, and we haven't got Richard Smith just yet. There's been a little delay. We've just been travelling back from the Great British Meetup, so that's what's probably held him up a little bit. But if you're interested in the Great British Meetup, well, it was fantastic. Packed room. It's one of the best things that I've been to. Really nice to see everybody. It was really good to see Melted Wheelie Bin in real life and Friendly Fish. And look at that. There's the Melted Wheelie Bin. I can't believe it. So that's fantastic. I didn't actually plan that. He just turned up as I said it. So that was really good to see you. And let's have a look at the next comment here. And it was also nice to see Friendly Fish Linda and Louise and her son. And oh, it's amazing. So yeah, so the Great British Meetup, we had Carl. Carl was the host, and he started things off. And then we had so many great speakers. George Goodenough, the accidental carnivore, was great. He wasn't good enough. He was great enough. And then we had Stephanie Taylor. I'll talk about some of the stuff I'm going to steal from her. Great stuff. Lauren, she was speaking. Carnivore saved her. And Lee Copus came off brilliantly. Speaking from the heart was fantastic. Then there was this dude who did okay, I suppose. And it ended with Richard being absolutely amazing and taking the roof off with so much science. The food was awesome as well. Really good food, which is one of the nicest things that's happened, because many conferences I've been to, the food has been a bit of a letdown. This was absolutely out of this world. It really was tasty. I think one of the things I would say is the caterers were so surprised, and this is sort of a backhanded compliment. The caterers were so surprised that this group of people, 140 plus, ate so much meat and drunk so much water. So we ran out of bottled water in the afternoon, which isn't a criticism of the organizer. I took my books along, and I ran out of books to sell to people because, we don't expect, we're sort of humble in this space, I suppose. And yeah, so it was great. It was really, really good. So yeah, let's have a little look at what we've got here. We've got a new member to the channel. Thank you so much. Tutankhamen. I remember when Tutankhamen actually came to to Britain, and let's have a look. We've got a private chat here. That's Richard. Yeah, when Tutankhamen first came to Britain, and we had an exhibition, a really corny sign on the road was "Toot and come in." Toot and come in. But anyway, yeah. So nice new member. Thank you. That's excellent. Let's have a look. Craig. Oh no! So many people saying hello. So let's do that, shall we? So Melted Wheeling Bid. That's nice to see you. No Carb Barb. Hi everyone. Melted Wheeling Bid is really good. Cami, good old Cami. She's over there in school as well, which is excellent. Good afternoon, Carnivore Edens. Juliet Marie Edens. Gaza Mongo. Hello from North Korea. State-controlled Britain. Yes. Good evening from East Yorkshire, Noreen. And we've got Papa Carnivore. You're there. Good. Right. With so many people, I get told off for doing these things and not getting straight to the questions, but I'm actually scrolling through and there are no questions. Now, John, who's listening, if you're listening, John, you never ask a question, but you're always listening for different facts or unusual facts. So what I'm going to do, I will instigate a John fact every so often. So hopefully that will entertain you. And we'll do that in a minute. We'll find a John fact. I mean, one of the things I did the other day was talked about the shepherds' huts, which, I think going back to nature really. And that's one of the things I spoke about at the Great British Meetup, is that we're trying to get rid of all these great technologies, all these clever ways of thinking. And one of the clever ways of thinking was shepherd's huts. Now, shepherd's huts used to have under the bed, there was like a beehive that the bees could come in from the field and get into the beehive, but they couldn't get into the room that the shepherd was sleeping in. but that's what heated the bed, the heat from the hive. And when we go around Britain, there's all these fantastic, mills, water mills that are using gravity and the rivers that are already there. And we've lost touch with all these simple technologies. So it's really frustrating, actually. Right. So Richard is here, but he is muted. He's getting himself set up. He's putting on his last bit of makeup. Well, the makeup girls are there. They're taking off all the stuff, making sure his shirt looks good. And here he is, the world's top. It's Richard Smith. Hi, Richard.
Hello. Yes, all of the girls in the studio that are doing my makeup have just left.
So are you on your right microphone? Because you sound a little bit like you're on a laptop microphone. I've got a new mic. All right.
That is the correct mic. It is the correct mic. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Sound is incredible. And I've got a new mic that I'm trying today. So Faith is asking, oh, yes, Nancy, you're right. Told me off. I never say subscribe to either Richard's channel or mine or both. Hit the like button. That really helps. You're absolutely right, Nancy. Over there in Tennessee, I'm going to perfect my Ken Berry impression because I did my Robert Kilt's one at the Great British Meetup. The stories that we... Anyway, right. We're not going to get into that. Right. Faith is asking, hi to you both. Do you feel there are any benefits to eating meat and fish that's fermented?
Anything fermented potentially in the early stages. This was a question, in fact, that came up. I think, did it come up yesterday?
Yes. Yeah.
Look, my opinion, my view is that during the transition, things like this can be incredibly beneficial. Once you've transitioned, I don't think there's any need for it. Does that mean that you can't consume them? I don't think so. I think it comes down to personal preference. But it's for me, it's a segue. It's a stepping stone potentially. But look, eat as nature intended. Use these things during these incremental steps. But meat. In fact, we had a conversation recently in regards to cooked meat and uncooked meat, which could be something interesting that we can get into if we have a little time, because there's a little bit of nuance behind this, isn't it, in regards to the research you've done. But yeah, that's my view on fermented.
Yeah, brilliant.
Short and sweet.
I wouldn't really. Yeah, it's very short for you, Richard. I mean, originally it was a fermentation process. It wasn't really done for food quality or improve anything. Some people did it because they felt it was safer, because of, not having refrigeration and those sort of things. And that's why humans have such an acidic stomach. And going into the sort of raw against cooked, I mean, one of the things is people talk about raw, where you don't denature the food. Well, as soon as it hits your stomach, it does denature, whether it's raw or cooked. So yeah. And I don't think we have problems with digestibility, which is another reason why we ferment foods, to make it more digestible. Because in carnivore, once you've adapted, basically you have better stomach acid, bile production seems to ramp up, and it's just amazing. So, right, okay. So let's go to the next question, which I think is from Nancy. And by the way, I did a little video about the Great British Meetup yesterday, Richard. I think you might have missed that.
I was watching it. I was backstage having my makeup done.
Oh yeah, apparently. Of course. Yeah. Right. Nancy is saying, what is the purpose of priming before a fast? So let me just explain priming, because I've actually primed. I don't think Richard has ever done that. He might have done that without realizing he was priming, but priming isn't necessarily before a fast. It's something you can do where you're eating 3 meals a day plus snacks. So when you transition to carnivore, sometimes your satiety signals aren't really working. Your hormone production is not where it should be. You've never felt full, so you don't know what full feels like, those sort of things. So priming is eating 3 meals a day plus snacks, and eating really until you're comfortably stuffed, or eating like it's your job. Now, I was carnivore for about 2 years. So I started when I was 55. I'm now 61. So 2 years into it. And I was pretty, happy with what I was doing. I thought I was doing okay. But before I've primed, and it's only in hindsight I know this, I was constantly thinking about food in a good way, not bad food, not craving pizza and stuff. I was thinking, oh, yeah, what are we going to have for lunch? What are we going to have for dinner? And priming stopped that. And it also helped me to get to a proper satiety. And that was a thing. A bit like when you have a medication, good pharmacists will say to you, whatever the doses is in the first couple of days, sort of take double the dose or the first day. And what they're trying to do is flood the system with the medication so it absolutely gets hooked up by the enzymes that it's targeting. That's not medical advice, by the way. This is just for information purposes. I know that information because obviously deal with dispensaries and all that. But that's not said on the label, but that's what pharmacists believe should happen, but they're not allowed to say that. So ignore that I said that. But that's the principle. So you eat so much food that your leptin, your ghrelin starts to really have to do work on on overtime. Now, within 9 days of priming, and I was being coached at the time, we did an online experiment. Coach Raymond said, wow, when I started, well, you don't eat much, do you? And I didn't realize I wasn't eating much because I've been so brainwashed by the mainstream media to look at my plate and think of portions. So I wasn't actually ever going by hunger, and I was never going by satiety. I was always going by what I'd learned. It was learned behavior. So I primed, and by day 9, I'd never felt in my life like it. I just thought, and I said to Raymond, I don't ever want to eat again. It's the first time I've ever felt like, wow, today I feel like I'm never going to eat again. I'm not going to need to eat again. And it was a real wake-up call for me because I've never felt like that. And so anyway, from that day forth, it sounded quite biblical there, from that day forth, after my priming, I didn't have the same relationship with food. It was so much better. And, I was saying to Jonathan, by the way, who didn't get in my little montage, but Jonathan, the carnivore muscle, was there. So I obviously got to mention Jonathan. How could I forget him? Monster. Anyway, right. And it really changed how I felt about food. Now, I was saying that we could go the whole day without eating yesterday. We didn't have to eat. Whereas when you're on a high carb diet or low calorie or calorie restriction, and Richard, we spoke about this when we did the 24-hour live stream. I couldn't have done that without food. But once you are adapted, once I did priming, I could easily have a day where I didn't eat. If I was busy, doing activity, high intensity training, I just could do it without that. So that's the purpose, to get your relationship with food absolutely sorted. Right. I am now going to hand over to Richard, and I'm going to do a little bit of back office and star the questions and get them done in order. But Nancy was clever. She used a super chat, which is very helpful for the channel, and also gets your question bumped up. So Nancy, it's good to see you. And I think you're coming to Spain, aren't you, for the meetup there? The meetup was just absolutely brilliant. It's so good to meet people, isn't it, Rich?
Yeah, it's incredible. What an incredible event. Yeah, more of those we need.
Yeah, Games Dog. Now, I don't know who that was. The meetup yesterday was excellent. Great talks and lots of info I'd never heard before, such as seed oils are dyed with peroxide. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm really worried about doing my blood talk because I thought people are going to be bored. They've heard this. Many people hadn't heard it. And for one person, it's life-changing because their child, this mum, I don't think she'd want me to name her, but anyway, she said, I can't believe I'd never heard of cystatin C. My son, who was there, by the way, and brilliant, fist bumping everyone. I think he was about 7, between 7 and 9. Anyway, allegedly he's got kidney failure, and they're talking about transplants, and they're talking about the possibility of dialysis because they're using the EGFR. And my doctor, who loves carnivore, wants to stop this happening because the nephrologist and the endocrinologist both agree that this is a big problem. But we've never had a cystatin C test, so she's going to have a cystatin C test. And we was watching him playing, and she was saying, that's not a boy with kidney function. I know, that's not a boy with kidney function. That's a boy who's had a blood test that's been interpreted wrong. So that will be a thing to look at. Right, crazy couple. Good evening. What can I take to help with taking metronidazole antibiotics for abscess in my mouth?
So I'm guessing by the question that they're taking the antibiotics. So look, antibiotics are, if medication is critically important. You know, Stephen and I teach about real food, the benefit of consuming real food, how the body can heal, build, and repair from consuming real food. Plants and other compounds are medicines, medications, and obviously we teach to avoid these compounds because if you're not sick, they can be incredibly detrimental. If you are sick, however, they can be beneficial. So there is a time for medication and antibiotics. And if it wasn't for antibiotics at several times in my life, I would be dead without question. So when the time comes and the requirement is there, then, you know, these drugs are there to be taken. All you can do is just eat as clean as you can. You know, what's caused this in the first place? You know, are you eating anything outside of a ketogenic or carnivore-based lifestyle? Are there any plant compounds that you put in excess? Has your body had a reaction to anything else within the carnivore remit, for example? Just consume adequate levels of fat and animal proteins. Just be as strict as you can. Avoid any compounds that are going to be problematic, and the body will do the rest. It's as simple as this. You know, the body, as long as we supply it with the building blocks, then it can do incredible things, which is something we touched base on yesterday in regards to how the body builds every cell within the body through protein synthesis. And this is done through the dietary protein that we consume. This is broken down into amino acids and reconstituted into human proteins. All we need to do is avoid the toxic compounds as much as we can and just live the healthiest lifestyle that we can. As far as supplementation goes, as you guys know, I'm a huge advocate of C8 MCT. C8 is the most antimicrobial substance available without a doctor's prescription. Incredibly beneficial for fungal infections and other infections for that matter. It's incredibly good for combating inflammation because the ketone production from the C8 will help block inflammation. And the exogenous ketones can also do this. What the ketones don't do is have the antimicrobial substance that the oil does, which is why I consume them together whenever I do take them, and they do work synergistically together. But the key to this is just eating as healthy as we can while avoiding the toxic compounds.
Brilliant. Oh, that's a fantastic answer, Richard. Thank you. Just a couple of bits of feedback. No Carb Barb hated priming and she's a fasting failure. But don't worry, No Carb Barb. I think you're a school member now, aren't you? We'll help you through that. Susan Lewis, priming didn't work for me. I gained weight. Yes, that's the thing. Priming isn't for everyone. I mean, this is one of the things that we're really big on here, that there's no one size fits all. It is all down to individuality, your fat to protein ratios, what you can and can't eat, dairy, should you include it, should you not include it, that sort of thing. So, so priming's not for everyone. Chris, hello from Chris. Devon Carnivore, great to meet both of you yesterday and enjoying your book, Guide to Blood Tests. Thank you very much, Chris. That's good. Big Blue, being Lion Diet for a while now, I tried to introduce butter and it went terribly bad. Diarrhea, upset stomach. Does that mean I shouldn't eat butter, or do I have to go through the whole intro phase? Or should I just stay away from it?
Yeah, great question. Look, I no longer consume butter unless I eat out. The only reason that I consume it when I eat out is because they want to cook in something. So I always preference butter, tallow, lard, or ghee. Any of the saturated fats, anything that's hard at room temperature. Carnivore and keto lifestyles are absolutely incredible because as we gravitate into these lifestyles, suddenly we can add fat to everything. You know, we double cream to the coffee, butter, tallow, all this, fat with everything, which is brilliant. Fat is our friend and it makes up a large portion of every cell within the body. That said, I no longer add any fats to cooking. Butter is problematic for me, and I believe that it's because my body doesn't require it. I've gravitated so deep down the journey that all I need to consume is the animal proteins cooked in their own juices with their natural fats, and I thrive on this. If I add in any butter or excess amounts of fats, it can cause diarrhea. Now, this can also occur in the early stages of adaptation, and it's to do with the bile reabsorption. So initially, we have bile production problems. Then, once we've taught the body how to produce the bile again through consuming the correct nutrients in order to do so, then we find that the body has lost its intelligence to reabsorb the bile. So the bile is produced, it emulsifies the foods that we consume, increasing the surface area for the pancreatic enzymes to go to work on, for the food to transition to the next part of the digestive system so we can absorb the nutrients. And then the bile is reabsorbed in the small intestine. So when the bile is not reabsorbed, and this is caused by two things: either not adapted enough, i.e. the bile is not being reabsorbed efficiently, or we're consuming too much, which is probably the case with Big Blue. So my recommendation is just to stay away from the butter. Again, this comes back to the age-old question: how do you feel? If you are feeling lethargic, if you are low on energy, then maybe you are not consuming enough fat. So maybe we need to teach the body in order to increase its intelligence, if you like, and learn how to reabsorb the bile. And we do this by consuming smaller amounts of food more frequently throughout the day. So instead of consuming 1 or 2 meals, maybe go to 2 or 3. Consume less on each meal, less fat in particular, and allow the body and give it an opportunity to learn to reabsorb the fat. If you have been carnivore for quite some time, then it's probably the other. It's probably a case that the body no longer requires it and you're thriving. But bounce that back to you, Big Blue. How do you feel? If you're feeling lethargic, then we need to teach the body to reabsorb. If you're not and you're full of energy, then we don't need to add the fat.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Richard. There's going to be a little phase of you answering questions because they're very use specific. No Carb Barb, as a new school member, I'll be joining you after this. So excited to be part of the group. That's great. It's really good to have you. Now, one of the things that Rich and I did, and we deliberately did it, is not even push school when we was at the meeting yesterday, because we're there to try and just, give the people the information. But I said to Richard, maybe we should, because maybe enough people out there don't know about school who could benefit from it. So anyway, I'm glad you joined. So how would you say that? Moni? Anyway, Moni, on Moni, any concerns with creatine supplements for a man when weight training?
Creatine is probably the most studied supplement on the market. Creatine is a substance that is found naturally in animal proteins, and it's around 5 grams per kilogram, so 5 grams per 1,000 grams of red meat. Creatine is incredibly beneficial for supplying energy for the phosphocreatine energy system. So when we look at muscle, for example, and we look at glucose to supply energy, or glycogen to supply energy, which we do need, which we usually make. The first part of this process is the PC system, the phosphocreatine energy system. So as ATP drops to ADP, we can replace one phosphate and make it ATP again to replenish and supply energy for those big, explosive, powerful movements. Now, that is what it's most well known for. It's incredibly studied. It was feared in the early days that overconsumption was potentially damaging to the kidneys. That was weak research at best. And I think it's safe to say that it's been debunked many, many times since then. Creatine is something that I've consumed for many, many years. I generally consume 15 grams of creatine each day, 10 grams through supplementation, and around 5 grams through the animal proteins that I consume. I'm not concerned. It doesn't consume me. I've consumed it for many, many years. I did come away when I was doing athletic endurance sports. But beyond this, and the reason for this was that I found that it was causing cramping in my calves, which you don't want when you're trying to run because you kind of need them. So cramping when you run isn't good. Since I'm back with the weight training, it's back in. It's never been problematic to me. And as I say, the research in regards to how damaging creatine is on the kidneys is weak at best. And it's also incredibly beneficial to the brain. It's incredibly beneficial to increase how the brain works, brain energy and brain function. So incredibly beneficial for many, many things beyond weight training. Should we be concerned? The only concern that I can think of is potentially water storage. So what happens is when we consume creatine is we store generally water in the muscle. And this occurs generally with most people. Creatine monohydrate will store water, but it's in the muscle, which isn't the problem. There are, however, a small percentage of people where creatine will be stored in the subcutaneous, i.e. outside the muscle, where we don't really want. So this can make us look washed out, and it can make us look less defined. So if aesthetics is something of a concern, then maybe this is something that is a concern to us. So for these people, a HCl version of creatine would be preference. The dose is required. The dose that's required is a lot smaller than creatine monohydrate. But I wouldn't recommend HCl generally, because I find that creatine monohydrate works better for the majority of people. I only recommend any HCl for those where creatine monohydrate does seem to store water in the subcutaneous and not in the muscle. Beyond that, I'm not concerned. It will store weight. It will gain. You will find that you will gain weight, but this isn't fat. It's not storing fat, and generally what it's doing is holding water in the muscle, which is adding leverage to the muscle. Which is how certain anabolic steroids work, by the way, is that it will add water and make you a lot more stronger. And this is how glycogen works. This is how the leverage in the muscle works. Probably a talk for another day, but this involves the myosin and actin sheaths in there that allow us to allow us to tense the muscle and create contraction. And we can get into that if we have more time later. But creatine, I think, is a fantastic compound. It's not just for men, and it's not just for weightlifting. I also recommend creatine monohydrate for many women who want better mental clarity and brain energy.
That's excellent, Richard. That's excellent. Let's have a look at the next one. Oh, yeah, this is definitely for you, because it's a subject you spoke about yesterday. So this is from Cami. Hi, Cami. Good to see you online again. I watched a video today about that sulforaphane could help to get microplastics out of the cells. That's good, of course, but I remember you talking about how the body sees it as a toxin. Thoughts on this?
Yeah, brilliant question. Cami is a fantastic supporter of the channel and a big supporter of the school group, long-time supporter. So thank you, Cami, for the support. Yeah, look, brilliant question. So look, these things that we see from medications, and so plant compounds make medicines. Medicines, as I said in one of the first questions, can be beneficial, and we can see a benefit. But what are we comparing it to? If we are sick and we take medication, then they can confer a benefit. So medications can be helpful. We've got to get that in. What are Richard Smith saying? Always conferring a benefit. Medications can help when we're sick. If we're not sick, however, medications can be incredibly problematic. So sulforaphane is a compound that is found in cruciferous vegetables. It's in high quantities in broccoli. Well, in fact, it isn't actually in cruciferous vegetables. It's created when we chew on the broccoli plant. So as we attack the plant, myrosinase binds to glucoraphanin during the chewing process. As we attack the plant, as a defense chemical, a chemical is produced called an isothiocyanate, and this goes on to create sulforaphane. Now, sulforaphane is a toxin. It's a plant defense chemical designed to attack the predator, i.e. us, because we are attacking the plant. And yes, this is a real thing. Plants don't want to be eaten, just like animals do not want to be eaten. The difference is an animal can fight back or run away. A plant cannot fight back. It's rooted to the ground. So it has these defense chemicals, phytoalexins, plant toxins, chemicals to harm and ward off predators. And all plants have these, by the way, to varying degrees. This is why you can't just go into your local forest and start eating plant compounds, because they will make you very, very sick, or it could even lead to death. And this is all plants. So the sulforaphane is a compound that comes from broccoli, and it's a compound that's been used in the treatment for cancers, which is fantastic because it does help. It does help kill cancer cells. But what does chemotherapy do? Well, chemotherapy kills all cells, or it can kill more than just cancer cells. So let's think of that for a second. if we take a chemotherapy tablet and it's going to cause harm to cells, including cancer cells, would we take a chemotherapy tablet if we did not have cancer? That is the question. Personally, I wouldn't. So why are we consuming broccoli, for example, if we do not have cancer? Because it's going to cause harm to other cells. So yes, they can confer benefits. I haven't seen the research to suggest that it can remove microplastics. I can believe it because this is what medications do. So medications will elicit a pro-oxidant response. So basically, when we consume a medication or a plant compound, sulforaphane, for example, the body sees it as a toxin. So the body wants to remove this toxin. So this toxin could be in the body, it could be in the cells. Now, what happens is the body will increase glutathione, the body's master antioxidant, to conjugate to said toxin to remove it from the body. And we see this as an antioxidant effect, which is technically true, but it's been elicited via a pro-oxidant response. So we've put a toxin in the body, and it's conferred a benefit through this pro-oxidant effect, where it's conjugated to a toxin, increased glutathione, and removed it from the body. Now, do we want to do this on a daily basis? Do we want to do it on an ongoing basis? Personally, I would not. I think that the body is constantly detoxing. Living a ketogenic lifestyle is constantly detoxing. We increase compounds such as glutathione and other antioxidants, by the way, which will remove toxins like microplastics at a far higher rate than sulforaphane from said plant or said medication. So we always need to ask the question, compared to what? If you were sick and eating and consuming what I would call an unhealthy lifestyle, then consuming said compound may confer a benefit. If one were to be living a ketogenic, low-carb or carnivore lifestyle, then I do not believe that there is any benefit to consuming broccoli for this, because the body is already achieving this antioxidant effect via the production of ketones, glutathione, and other antioxidants. So always ask the question, compared with what?
That's excellent. That's absolutely excellent. For people that are not sure what we're talking about when we say about school, I'll just very quickly show you what school. School is a community that we offer. You can join if you want it, and many people in this room have, and it's at least 50% less expensive than anyone else's community out there, I think, at the moment. So what it is lots and lots of people get together, and we're all sort of carnivores, so we're all weirdos, obviously. And you can put questions up about your own journey. You can help other people on their journey. If you're a newbie, there's lots and lots of things that you can get involved in. So that's a general discussion. There's playbacks for all the question and answers we've done for members, recipes, those sort of things in the classroom. There are many levels that you can do. There's a free keto course if you're only interested in keto or low carb. 19 tips to going carnivore, and then how to be carnivore. All of these are opened up straight away as soon as you're on. And then depending on your level of activity, all the other courses open up. So level 3 is all about thyroid. There's free ebooks. There's lots of videos. There's a bit about dairy, which has been life-changing for a couple of people, apparently. They've told me recently in emails. All about fruit and veg there. The secrets behind the producer's methods. So, for instance, did you know that most apples in your supermarket are at least 1 year old? They were picked over a year ago. Same with pears. And they talk about how they do that, how they keep them in controlled environments and all that sort of stuff. Protein-free ebooks, lots of videos, problem solving. And then you've got my book, How to Be Carnivore, and the Fat Club, which is the Healthy Living Club, which is day-to-day help for about the first 60 days. If you don't want to do all the activity stuff to qualify to open it all up, you can pay a one-off fee. The calendar is always chock-a-block, so we do a live straight after this one on Sunday. There we are. At 8 p.m. We also do one on a Monday, an hour of live Q&A, and we also do one on a Wednesday. Well, that's just myself, where it's Wednesday Wellness. So there's always at least 3 Q&As every week, and normally there's more than that. So if you want to join school, all you've got to do is click the link, which hopefully Richard has put in the live chat. But if he hasn't, no worries. I'll do it in a minute.
I am on it.
You can join our community, like-minded people, not feel like a weirdo. If the only person in your house is a carnivore, you will find that there are at least there's over 1 million people in the world doing carnivore. And as we saw at our meeting yesterday, there are lots of secret carnivores as well. So you just feel you're in the right place at the right time. So let's do the next thing. How do you know when you're fat adapted? Now, you can do a blood test to get a result, but the easiest way is have you got stable energy? Have you got mental clarity and focus? Have you got reduced brain fog? Have you got sustained energy? That's an improved, a thing that most people see improved. Have you got improved mood? And is your mood more stable? Have you got a sort of more natural appetite regulation? Can you go extended periods without eating? Now, you may have realized I mentioned all these things at the beginning of this because I am fat adapted. Are you having authentic hunger signals? That's another good sign. So, for instance, you might think you're hungry, but are you bored? Are you just thinking, oh, I'll eat that because that's what I always do when I watch something on Netflix? You know, is fasting easy for you? And that all those things are good signs that you're fat adapted. And also when you come into endurance sports and doing things at the gym, is your endurance there? Is it steady? Are you able to do the things that you want to do? I think sleep is underrated. If you've got better sleep quality, boy, I don't know about you, Richard, but after Saturday, I really slept last night, and it was fantastic. Yes, you can do lots of things. You can do a respiratory quotation thing. You can breathe into something. You can look at your VLDL, and if that's very low, that could possibly tell you that you're fat adapted because that VLDL is the first past the cells, and if the cell is sucking up that fat, they're going to be lower. So there's many things, but energy stabilization, appetite regulation, sleep patterns improving, exercise performance being more sustained. I think all of those things, there's a big list there, but yeah, that will mean that you're fat adapted. It's pretty nailed on that would happen. I know they're all subjective, they're not objective markers, but in the end, that's what it's about. It's how you look and feel. I always joke about this, and I did do this at the presentation yesterday, but I had someone tell me that they slept really badly. And this is during a consultation. And I said, well, what happened? Did you get up a lot of times during the night to urinate? Oh, no. Well, did you have a sort of short period of sleep? Did you get up at 4 o'clock and you couldn't get back? No. Were you tossing and turning all the time? No, I slept really good, but my aura ring said I didn't. So we've got to get back to what is actually happening to us. So yeah, did you want to add to that, Richard? Because you're the king of all this stuff, aren't you?
Yeah, no, brilliant answer. The only thing that I would add to this, if one were testing, is that if we are testing with urine strips, the body is, or the strips are detecting acetone, which is a wasted ketone product. As this begins to lower on the urine strips, that's usually a sign of fat adaptation because the body is now transitioning to producing and using beta hydroxybutyrate over wasting ketone. So, Eleni, if you are testing with urine strips, then that can be an indicator. But look, as Stephen says, it comes back to how you feel. That is, I think, the most important thing. Beyond fat adaptation is keto adaptation, which is where the body is upregulated its ability to produce, transport, and utilize BHB. And that tends to come a lot further down the journey, maybe 12 months even into the journey. 6 to 12 months, I think, seems to be a general adaptation period. But how do you feel, I think, is the best indicator?
Yeah. So Faith here is just saying, within our school community, we were talking about how many of us have reactions to sparkling water. Why is that? It's a naturally sparkling water. Why would we become bloated from it? Because of the carbonation. It's actually not naturally sparkling. It's added. And carbon dioxide has to be processed. You're ingesting it, so your body will have to process the carbon dioxide. And the carbon dioxide becomes carbonic acid. It puffs up and it will make you bloated and it can make you belch. It's really that simple. I don't think there's many naturally carbonated waters in the world. Evian certainly isn't. That has to be, it's normally sold as still, but you can get it as sparkling. Buxton water, that's still, but that, you can get as a sparkling version. I use Tau water, TAU, which is amazing. The flavour is absolutely amazing, but it is carbonated. It's not a naturally sparkling water. So it can really affect a lot of people like that. But it's a great question, Faith. But that's why. Anything you put in your body has to be processed. Okay, Joey's saying, my friend has pouchitis, result of ulcerative colitis from an operation with infections, malnutrition, and severe weight loss. Persuaded her to speak to a carnivore coach for advice. Which one of you two? Well, I would recommend Richard, because, and this happened at the meeting, by the way, and I love consultations, but I just think, who is the best for this? Richard's had these things. He's had GI distress. I haven't had that. And I think anyone who's got an illness and who has lived it has more knowledge of that normally. If they're a knowledgeable person like Richard is, he wants to learn about it. If you've had it, boy, you become an expert in it. I would say, if someone said, I'm having real problems with my hearing and adapting to hearing aids, and asked Richard, who's the best person to consult, I would imagine Richard would hopefully say me, because I've lived it for, 40 odd years. So I know it inside out and back to front. So yeah, Joey, I would definitely go for Richard. I'm not even going to let Richard speak unless he wants to, but
I will jump in really quick. I
Go on
appreciate that, Steve. Way too kind as always. But look, Joey, Stephen, I think is way too modest with this. He is incredibly knowledgeable. So, and I don't think that you're going to miss a trick if you were to book with Steve either. So, personal preference, you take your pick.
Yeah, that's really nice. And I was going to say that at the end. I mean, you might find me not very palatable. You might think I like, so that's fine too. Yeah. Right. Okay. Here we go. This is a great question from Melted Wheelie Bin, which is still, when I first had a wheelie bin, it's had a sign on it. This is how old I am. Don't put hot ashes in here. Yeah. And I couldn't believe that needed to go on there. That was the first thing, because it's plastic. And then when I moved to a place that had a wood burner, the the wheelie bin was a bit melted. Not from me, by the way. So that's it. So one of the things Richard and I are both members of is to Make America Healthy Again. And one of the people in that group is Dr. Sean O'Mara. So this question is very interesting, actually. He's a very good person there to know. I asked about fermented food yesterday, as Dr. Sean O'Mara advocates having a small amount every day. He also mentioned sprinting, as your thigh muscles release myokines. Well, myokines are things like interleukin 6 and BDNF and all that sort of stuff. So yes, what did you want to say, Richard?
So let's start with sprinting. Sprinting, I think, is absolutely incredible. And I think if you are looking to incorporate some form of training, sprinting is going to be more beneficial than long distance running. Now, that said, I would also recommend that you don't start with sprinting. So I would recommend that you start with, slow jog first and build up. Otherwise, it's quite possible that you will cause an injury. If you are going to start sprinting straight off, start with hill sprints, because they're going to be less of an impact. Or you can start with something like explosive rowing or ski erg and so on and so forth. Anything like this is going to be beneficial. So 100% I agree with this. I do agree with the first statement also, but in context. I think context is incredibly important. I don't think it's, if you are adapted, if you've been living a ketogenic carnivore-based lifestyle for quite some time, I do not believe fermented food confers any benefit. If you are starting your journey and you were transitioning, then I believe that it can be beneficial. Look, the fermented food can be beneficial to the gut microbiome. But what we need to understand, and we did touch base on this yesterday, is how the gut microbes feed on what we put into our mouth. And if we are consuming highly nutrient-dense animal proteins and natural fats, then the Bacteroidetes and Firmicutes, which are the two main phylum within the gut, will alter and will actually increase alpha diversity within the gut. And we don't need to consume fermented foods in order to do this. If we are transitioning, however, then I believe the fermented foods can help improve the gut microbiome to allow us to move on to the next stage in the journey. So I think it has its place. I see that people will benefit in the early stages, but I think once we've adapted and we've become keto carnivore for a prolonged period of time, then I don't believe that there's any benefit to the gut microbiome. So I do agree, but context is important.
Yeah, I think if you're carnivore, I just want to put my 2 pence in. I don't think you need to do it. I just don't see the need, because the short chain fatty acids, as Richard said, you're getting plenty of those. Your B12 synthesis is just amazing. I personally don't see it at all, but that doesn't mean you don't have to do it. The best way to do this, and I said about individuality, is to try it and see 100%. How things go. Yeah. And if it doesn't work for you, don't keep doing it. And if it does make, and even if it's placebo, I don't care. If you take it and you feel it's better for you,
then it's working.
It's working. So that's fine.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Oh, this is a nice one. Now, this is easy for me. So I'm going to start, if you don't mind, Richard. Good evening, gents. What do you use for shaving foam and aftershave? Okay. Well, this sounds really big-headed, but I don't smell anymore if I'm strict carnivore. So I don't use. Yeah. There was a big ring of people miles away from me yesterday. I use this. I use the Fat Cow tallow soap for my shaving foam. I sadly have got so many people ask me about it. I did a video about how I do my shaving foam. It literally is tallow soap in a little bowl. I've got a brush, which is badger hair because it's posh, and then you a tiny bit of water on it. You whisk it all up, bang. You've got shaving foam, which is amazing. Like in the old days, if you watched any old films where people were shaving, it foams up wonderfully. Now, if you use modern shaving gel or foams, there's going to be, it's just like food. There's a list of ingredients. You could look up each ingredient and you'll be very surprised to find that maybe the first ingredient is that you don't understand what it is, for instance. Well, that's a thing that makes it foam. Then you might find that the next ingredient is the chemical that stops the itchiness and the abrasion on your skin from the chemical beforehand. And that's a lot of what happens in these sort of cosmetic formulations of something as simple as, shaving foam. So I only use tallow in the shower. I use a tallow soap. That's it. And water. One thing I would say, I don't think this is mentioned enough. I have a water softener, which is salt to the water. So the shower, all the glass and all the chrome and all that doesn't get stained. There's no stains on it whatsoever. The reason I think this is clear in my mind is whenever I stay away. So, for instance, I stayed away yesterday because of the Great British Meetup, and the shower there was atrocious, but the water there is atrocious. You can't lather anything up, and it stains all the chrome and it stains the glass and all that, and it's terrible. So a water softener is very good, and although it's a little bit expensive when you first put it in, it really is beneficial for your skin, for your hair. For everything. You don't have to use any chemicals to clean the shower because nothing stains it. You can clean the shower if you want to, and we do because it's just one of those things, but you don't have to. And there's no stains on the glass, no stains on the chrome. There's no build up round taps and all that sort of stuff. So that's my answer. Don't use aftershave. If I did, I can't even think what I'd use. I used to use Hugo Boss, but then, that is expensive, but I don't wear it very much. So probably it's lasted me over 15 years.
Yeah, brilliant answer. And brilliant question, Herbert. Snap, I tend to use tallow, if anything, or MCT on my skin. I don't put anything else on, but I dry shave. So I don't actually use anything for shaving per se. We were fortunate enough to have some samples from a good supporter of our channel, some tallow soap and some other bits yesterday, which I am yet to try. So I will be trying them this week and will report back next week. But tallow, anything that goes on the skin should be natural. So my ethos is, if you want to eat it, then it shouldn't go on your skin. Generally, I do not use aftershave either. As Stephen says, I think that I don't smell at least as bad as I used to. If I do use any form of aftershave or anything, then I'll spray it on clothes and not directly on my skin. I know that there may be contact there, but generally on a day-to-day basis, I don't use any. If I'm going to an event, I may put some on my suit overcoat, for example. So I mean, there's no chance of that coming in direct contact with the skin because it needs to go through that and the shirt. But it's very few and far between. So generally, I don't use aftershave, and I don't use anything for shaving. I use a dry shave. If I am doing wet shave, it's just water and a razor.
That's brilliant. Okay, let's get to the next question, which is it's actually a comment, but it's nice. Meat-tastic. Great to see you both yesterday. Fabulous day. Looking forward to the Ancestral Health Festival in a couple of weeks. My question to you, Meat-tastic, you can put a comment if you don't mind, is my presentation, if I did an extended one, would you get bored learning a bit more about bloods, or would it be worth doing? That's my question there. Right. But thank you. It was nice to meet you. Been line diet for 3-ish months and haven't gotten any skin benefits yet. Do I need to keep going longer, or is this enough time to realize it's just the best it will get? Minor acne and mild rosacea. Big Blue. Without knowing your full history, I would have to say that I've only got one client at the moment. So 6 years I've been doing this, and there's lots have come with skin issues. I've only got one client at the moment that's still having problems with skin after a fair amount of time. I think it's about 6 months. And I think outside influences can also have an influence. Like I just said, the water that you shower in, the chemicals you use on your skin, your stress levels, your sleep levels, all those sort of things, which is not saying carnivore gets a free pass, because it could be something in your carnivore diet that for you isn't working. Could be dairy, could be the lack of dairy. I mean, some people actually find when they go to raw milk dairy, and I'm a great believer in it unhomogenized as well, that things seem to improve rather than get worse. So it's a little bit of experimentation. Going back to consultations, you could firstly join school, which is a very expensive way to get other people to chime in and give you some help, and you can give people some pictures of what you're eating and all that sort of stuff, or even a consultation I think might be of help. Very rarely we talk about that on this, because that's not what this is about. We're trying to answer your questions, but when it's very specific like that and you're obviously frustrated, just doing a consultation might really make a big difference to you, because people can see your skin for a start. But yeah, I've had people, it's taken 6 months to a year for the skin to get really good. It does depend how long you've had that skin problem as well. So that's my 2 pence.
Brilliant question and fantastic answer as always, Steve. Look, I used to suffer with severe skin conditions, acne all over my face, all over my back, boils, dry skin. So my hands were, my hands are incredibly soft now. They're like, yeah, they're probably like girls' hands. Am I allowed to say that? They're incredibly soft anyway. I'm not allowed to say. They're incredibly soft. They're not rough and hard, which they should be being a man lifting weights, but they're incredibly soft. They used to split when I did this, especially over there and there, and I had to take medicated cream for many, many years. So I suffered with severe skin conditions. This went away for me 12 months into my ketogenic journey. So it took over a year. It took 12 months, maybe a little bit longer, before my acne began to clear up. Now, there are a number of causes for this. I would do what Steve suggests. A consultation, I think, would be incredibly beneficial. But just to give you some information to go away with this, 3 months isn't very long, given the fact that you've taken a lifetime to cause the damage in the first place. So it's going to take longer than 3 months maybe to recover. Intestinal permeability is one of the main causes of skin condition. So healing the gut is job number 1. So we need to make sure the gut is healed. This can take quite some time. A number of contributing factors to this are things like grains, wheat germ agglutinin, obviously from the grains, the phytohemagglutinin from plants. Some of the overmucoid in eggs can be problematic. Seafood can be problematic. Coffee can be problematic. Dairy can be problematic. So it takes time in order to recover from this. Also, there are external influences. Stress, cortisol is another big influence, because cortisol is responsible for the production of sebum in the skin. So if this is impacted anyway, then this can be problematic to the skin. So there are a number of contributing factors and levers that you can pull in order to do this. But 3 months is not an awful long time. We need to resign to the fact that this is a lifestyle and not a quick fix. This is how we need to consume and live our lives moving forward, and everything will fall into place. The longer that you live the lifestyle, the more you realize that certain foods are beneficial, other foods can be problematic, and it's just a case of meandering through this journey and discovering which compounds are more beneficial than others, and finding your way there. But a few little things to move away from, but as Stephen said, a consultation or joining the school group would be recommended.
Brilliant. Now, Richard put a link into the school group. There's only a few minutes left, so we're probably only going to get one more question in. I would strongly recommend joining school while the price is what it is. I had a few people come up to me yesterday and say, I've been umming and ahhing, and you had a price that was unbelievable, and then you raised it. Is there any way of getting that original price? And no, the thing is, we rewarded people that got in early and supported us early with a very low price and actually guaranteed to stay for life. So when there was a price increase, nobody saw that. So if you get in now, even though we're still incredibly inexpensive, that price is guaranteed. And as we get to another bulk, we're trying to make sure that we can service everybody, so it doesn't get too big. I would definitely get in now while the going's good. And then, in a couple of months' time, when there's so many more new members, and it's pretty big at the moment, we might have to put the numbers up to, again, moderate it. Right. Rod is asking this. This is an area I'm particularly interested in. Does anyone know of a real-time inflammatory detection device similar to a CGM device? Now, because I'm in bloods and I did that for a decade, and we did urine analysis, and I'm very interested in HbA1c and wearables and all that sort of stuff, I can assure you at the moment there isn't an FDA approved continuous inflammation monitor, but that does not mean they are not looking at that. So they are definitely looking at a micro needle based biosensor and a wearable. They're the front runners at the moment. Doesn't mean it's the best technology. So they're like sort of a patch that collects interstitial fluid, and it does measure inflammatory cytokines, basically. So that's not bad. And we've also got sort of some skin patches that some companies are looking at that they're telling me about, which are being prototyped, and there are people wearing them as a prototype, like I say, not FDA approved. So lots of things. Cytokine TV, which is like an implantable protein sensor. Don't really like anything that's going to be stuck in your body, but it could be essential for people that do have inflammatory problems. But the biggest sensor is your body. You will feel aches and pains. You will feel aches and pains in your joints, in your fingers, in your toes, in your side, and they're the best judges at the moment. So like I say about the Aura ring, you can wear it, but in the end, if you had good sleep and it tells you you didn't, I would go with what you think. I don't know if, Richard, you want to add to that at all?
I think you've nailed it.
Okay, cool. And Maxi, I think her name was, asked a question. Maxitar, I just want to say this to you. You've asked something like, can you sort of subtly talk about the spike protein and how carnivore might detox you? We can't talk about the spike protein, sadly. And that brings us to the next thing. There are things that will help you with that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I really do apologize. We can't really speak freely. Next week, we're going to go back to doing this live on Rumble as well. Or so I shouldn't say that either. Apple Crumble, it's ridiculous. If you join school, that's where that question will be looked at sympathetically and honestly. Yesterday at the meetup, it was great to be in state-controlled Britain, but be able to speak freely without doing what I'm doing now. So yes, there are some questions that we can answer, but not on YouTube. Isn't that terrible when it's talking about your health that we can't talk about it, even though there are known protocols, successful protocols? So anyway, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much, YouTubers. It's always appreciated. X, we've been streaming on X. It just hasn't grown on X. So if you're watching on X, sorry about that. You have to do it on YouTube next time. And Facebook the same. We're going to look at different outlets. But anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully we see you over in school for the continuation of the Q&A. Sorry we didn't get to every question.
Thank you all. Fantastic questions as always.